Hey, what's up friends? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Larry and this is Your Own Adventure, a primarily mountain bike based channel with some other surfing and adventures thrown into the mix. I like to cover ride footage, tutorials, reviews, and anything else I could think of along the way. In today's video, we're going to talk about a beginner's guide to mountain biking. There absolutely was a time and place for this gimbal. In today's video, we're going to talk about a beginner's guide to mountain biking. More specifically, we're going to talk about approaching trail features and obstacles and how you could ride them differently to create a better and faster line, or maybe a more smooth ride. This is going to be focused for beginners, intermediate, and all sorts of riders. It might just give you a different taste of how to ride a line, or give you a different perspective from, well, it would be my own perspective, and create some different ideas in your own riding style. So let's get right into it. We're gonna hit the trail, record some features, different terrain, and have some different riders. I'm gonna throw Cami into the mix. She's gonna be acting as the beginner intermediate rider, and I'm going to be riding the trail a little bit more aggressively as a different style riding. You should be able to take these ideas and line choices and bring them to your own trail, because like you, my home trail isn't all that extravagant like Whistler per se, but I do find creative new lines every time that I ride, and I hope that inspires you and gives you some new options when riding. But before we hit the trail, I'm going to show you some surfing because I also get out there in the water. I'm going to throw some of the surfing into the mix in most of the videos if it makes sense, so that you could view the ocean and see it if you're not available. Maybe you're landlocked, and it'll just spice up the videos a little bit. I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you on the trail. I want to first start off by saying I am in no way a professional or claiming to be anything other than an intermediate rider. Maybe a little bit better than intermediate, but that's kind of the extent of where I want to say I am in my riding. I know that personally I have things I could work on, and there's always room for improvement, but just watching different riders gives you an idea of creative lines and new ways to ride your own trail, so you could take that into consideration. I'm not trying to sound like an expert, I'm just showing you guys some different ideas so that you could take your own opinions and utilize them on your own trail. So let's take a look at this first obstacle. A lot of local trailheads will have a similar feature where you have a small drop and then a bypass with a beginner's line. Maybe it's got a root or maybe a small ledge, but this offers a level of progression so that beginners, intermediates, and advanced riders can all flow through the same section of trail. And in this example, Cami is going to be taking that primary line, just a small ledge over some roots, and in the video you'll see how bumpy it actually is, especially with the speed that she's going at. A lot of people are going to be going at this speed because they're cautious, but actually speed is your friend, and that's kind of the theme of this video. So we can already see that the approach is a lot different in this clip. I'm going a lot faster, and at this point you could kind of tell what's going to happen here. I would call this the intermediate approach because although we're not really getting too much air, we're still hopping over that feature and almost seamlessly connecting one piece of trail to the other. Now this line would definitely be considered the advanced line. This ledge drop is about 3 to 4 feet in vertical and horizontal distance. It is one of the smaller drops that you'll probably encounter, but most trail systems will have something similar to this. There's no true way to know exactly how fast you'll need to be going, especially if this is your first time. A good way to practice this while negating injury would be to find a curbside to practice manualing or lifting your front wheel off of while dropping off the ledge. A good rule of thumb a good rule of thumb is if you're able to manual off of a curbside with enough speed to where your bike is completely leaving the curb with your front wheel still in the air, you'll be able to make this drop. There should be no difference in body position and movement. The only difference is that confidence and the amount of ground you're going to be covering. This feature is a great example of gnarly roots. Here, Cami is going to take the most common line, which is straight down the middle, and we'll talk a little bit about why this isn't the fastest option and maybe the most dangerous. The speed coming into this feature is about as slow as you'd want to take it, due to the fact that these roots are really big and there's gaps in between them. It lends a ton of opportunity for your tire to get hung up and for you to go over the bars, which is what you want to avoid at all costs. Now let's talk about the positives in this scenario. She utilized a very good body position, which negated a fall in this slow movement. Even though she's not going as fast as you probably could over these roots, her body positioning allowed her to stay firm on her bike and in control over those really severe bumps. Sticking with the theme, I'm going to be taking this line a little bit faster, and this is probably considered the intermediate line, maybe a little bit higher into that advanced line. I'll be using a root to actually bump off of and kind of ollie into a transitional root system that gives me even more speed as I pump down into the trail. Now we'll be looking at the same exact feature, only going the opposite way, and this offers a little bit more of a challenge because those roots are a lot harder to climb up as opposed to rolling down. So the beginner line would obviously be going around the roots altogether and just avoiding them at all cost. The negatives in doing this is obviously a slower line, but the positives are a lot less power needs to be outputted, and you could avoid the possibility of getting hung up on the roots altogether and slowing to a fall or standstill. This outside high line is going to be considered the intermediate line. I'm not sure if it's any faster, but it does seem like there's less distance being covered from point A to point B. Comparing it to the opposite outside line, you'll notice that where Cami starts climbing over these roots, I'm already up and over the roots on top of where the trail continues on. It takes just one foul swoop for me to get over these roots, as opposed to taking a longer linear approach to this feature. Before we go into the advanced option for this line, I want to say that I'm not really covering body position on the bike or technique. If you want to see more videos like that, just let me know. Like I said, I'm not an expert on those sorts of things, so I don't want to say anything wrong to get scrutinized for. I will do my best if I do produce videos like that, but for this one, I'm just giving you a different insight on line choices and options so that you could take these ideas and utilize them in your own trail system or potentially even Graham Swamp. Sticking with the main theme of this video is speed and hopping over the majority of these tough features. I will say that I know enough that speed is your friend and that speed is what's going to give you control over your bike, even though you might not think so whenever you're first starting out. Here I'm taking the technique of a bunny hop and utilizing a bump in the trail to do a kind of bump jump, that's what you would call it. And right at the very base of this feature, there is a root just sticking right out of the ground. It actually acts as a small kicker and creates a very transitional seam from one side of the feature to the other. And the last feature here that we'll cover is a small rock roll. And again, this feature will definitely be part of your trail system, whether it is natural or maybe a practice feature. And you'll notice that Cami is actually coming into this with a lot of speed and carrying that momentum across those rocks. And she does this quite smoothly with nice attack position while maintaining that speed over the rocks. And here I'm purposely rolling into these rocks with very little speed and just a casual cruising position. There are dangers in doing this because my body is very heavy on the bike and that makes the wheels a lot more likely to get caught up in one of those rocks and stop the bike completely and create a fall that is easily avoidable. Here I'm approaching the feature a lot faster, and again I'm using this rock to act as a kicker, clearing this entire rock garden like a double. Aside from rolling into this feature the opposite way, there is no difference in how you would approach the feature. Here I'm using a much more aggressive riding style as opposed to my very first try. And this is how I would ride over this feature if I wasn't trying to clear it. I'm coming into it with a lot of speed and almost into a manual position, dropping my heels and swinging my hips back behind the seat. This gives the bike a lot more freedom to move around, and your body's actually acting as a natural suspension. It makes for a lot smoother and quicker ride over these bumps. Just imagine your body being really light and floating over these things instead of being very heavy, and you could utilize this philosophy in a lot of the features on your trail. I hope that you enjoyed that video. I know that the features aren't anything too advanced or crazy, but if you want to see more progression in these style videos, then just comment down below, because I'd love to get more creative with them and do some different lines and have some different riders actually get thrown into these videos. Because myself, I'm not a crazy skilled rider as of yet, and there are some other riders that I could utilize to show off some different, more expert lines, and if you'd like to see that, just comment down below. Other than that, I hope that you gained some insight. Maybe you'll find a new line at your home trail, and if you do, just let me know about it. I'd love to see it. And that's about it. I hope that this beginner's guide to mountain biking, a different sort of tutorial video, helped you out. Don't forget to create your own adventure however you can today. Spread some positivity, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.